5 days before his 66th birthday, Rickey Henderson died in Oakland, California. The greatest leadoff hitter in baseball history. He began 1,406 stolen bases, 2,295 runs scored, 81 leadoff home runs, 2,129 walks. Every single one of those numbers is a record. Not records he approached or threatened or came close to breaking. Records he owns outright, by margins so vast that no one will ever touch them. Lou Brock, the man whose stolen base record Rickey broke, finished his career with 938 steals. Rickey beat that by 468. That gap alone would rank as one of the greatest base-stealing careers in history. Ty Cobb scored 2,245 runs over 24 seasons. Rickey beat that too. Babe Ruth walked more than any player before him. Rickey walked more than Ruth. Bill James, the most respected statistician in baseball history, was once asked if Rickey Henderson was a Hall of Famer. His answer: if you could split him in two, you'd have 2 Hall of Famers. This is the story of the Man of Steel. Rickey Nelson Henley was born on Christmas Day, 1958, in Chicago, Illinois. His mother, Bobby, did not make it to the hospital in time. Rickey entered the world in the back seat of an Oldsmobile named after the singer and actor Rickey Nelson, arriving as he would do everything else in his life: fast, dramatic, and impossible to ignore. His father, John Henley, left the family when Rickey was 2 years old. Bobby gathered up her children and moved to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to live with her mother on a farm. Pine Bluff was a nowhere town for black families in the early 1960s. There were no jobs. Segregationists were waging a violent last stand against integration. Bobby's mother worked for a white family to support the household. Years later, Rickey would remember those days in Arkansas. He said he was only a little kid then, and he wondered if this was like the slavery days, living on the plantation and taking care of the white folks. He learned later that his grandmother was simply doing what she had to do to help the family survive. But the memory stayed with him. Bobby knew her children needed more opportunity than Pine Bluff could offer. She moved to Oakland, California, found a job as a registered nurse, and sent for her family. Rickey was about 10 years old when he arrived in the East Bay. Going to California was a one-way trip, he said later. In Oakland, Bobby married a truck driver named Paul Henderson. Paul adopted Rickey and his 4 brothers, giving them his surname. The family grew with the addition of 2 daughters. It was a full house, sometimes chaotic, but it was stable. Oakland was a place where a young black kid with extraordinary athletic talent could dream of becoming something. Rickey's older brother Tyrone was the one who first put a baseball glove on his hand. Rickey admitted he did not want to play at first, but Tyrone made him. Tyrone would fire the ball at his younger brother hard, and Rickey would fire it back harder. It was less a game of catch than a competition of wills. Rickey learned early that he did not like to lose. At Bushrod Park in North Oakland, Rickey's gifts became obvious to everyone who watched him. He was faster than the other kids, stronger, more aggressive. He played every sport available to him and dominated all of them. By the time he reached Oakland Technical High School, he was a 3-sport star in baseball, basketball, and football. Football was his first love. Rickey was an All-American running back with 2,000-yard rushing seasons. He dreamed of playing for the Oakland Raiders, the hometown team that embodied the city's tough blue-collar identity. More than 100 colleges offered him football scholarships. The path to the NFL seemed clear. But Bobby Henderson had other ideas. She had watched football players get hurt. She had seen careers end with a single hit, a torn knee, a broken body. Her son was 5 feet 10 inches tall and 180 pounds. He was fast and elusive, but he was not built to absorb punishment from linebackers for 10 years. Baseball, she argued, was safer. Baseball careers lasted longer. In baseball, you did not have to get tackled. He admitted years later that he still would have chosen football over baseball, but he listened to his mother. When the Oakland Athletics drafted him in the 4th round of the 1976 amateur draft, he signed for $10,000 and began his professional baseball career. At his Hall of Fame induction, more than 3 decades later, Rickey acknowledged the debt he owed. He said, "I guess Mum does know best." Thanks, Mum. The minor leagues were an education. Rickey was 17 years old, away from home for the first time, lonely and homesick. His first manager, Tom Trebelhorn, took the young outfielder under his wing and helped him adjust to life as a professional athlete. Rickey's speed was obvious from the beginning. In his second minor league season, playing for the Single-A Modesto Athletics, he stole 95 bases and broke the California League record. But he also made 20 errors in the outfield. He was so fast that he overran ground balls, so quick that he arrived at the spot before he knew what to do with the ball. "A lot of times I was so fast that I did not know how to control it," Rickey explained. "I was overrunning ground balls and making the ball get to me too fast and booting a lot of balls." He learned. He always learned. By the time he reached the major leagues in June of 1979, he was ready. Rickey Henderson made his debut on June 24th against the Texas Rangers at the Oakland Coliseum. He was 20 years old. He got 2 hits in 4 at-bats and stole his first base. It was the first of 1,406. His first full season in 1980 announced to the baseball world that something unprecedented had arrived. Rickey stole 100 bases, becoming only the 3rd player in modern history to reach that mark. He broke Ty Cobb's 65-year-old American League record of 96 steals. He also hit .303, drew 117 walks, scored 111 runs, and posted a .420 on base percentage. He was not just fast, he was a complete player, a leadoff hitter who could get on base, steal bases, score runs, and occasionally drive the ball out of the park. The Athletics had found something special, but 1980 was only the preview. In 1982, Rickey Henderson put together the greatest base-stealing season in baseball history. He stole 130 bases. Lou Brock had held the single-season record with 118 steals, set in 1974. Rickey obliterated it. He was caught stealing 42 times that year, also a record, because he was so aggressive, so relentless, so determined to run that pitchers and catchers could not keep up, even when they knew he was going. He attempted 172 steals. No one had ever tried to run that often. No one had ever succeeded that often. What made Rickey so impossible to stop? It started with his lead. He would crouch off first base, bouncing on his toes, his eyes locked on the pitcher. He studied every move, every twitch, every habit. He knew when a pitcher was going home before the pitcher did. And when he took off, he was explosive, covering the 90 feet to second base in under 3 seconds. Scout Charlie Metro spent years trying to figure out how to throw Rickey Henderson out. He used stopwatches. He analyzed release times. He concluded that it was impossible. Metro said he found it impossible to throw some other guys out also. They can go from first to second in 2.9 seconds, and no pitcher-catcher combination in baseball could tag second in 2.9 seconds. It was always 3, 3.1, 3.2. Rickey was faster than the game itself could handle. Baltimore Orioles third baseman Floyd Rayford once described the confusion of facing Rickey on the base paths. Henderson was leading off first base, and he flashed 2 fingers at Rayford. Before Rayford could figure out what it meant, Rickey stole second base. Then he stole third. Rayford finally understood. Rickey had been telling him he was about to steal 2 bases. The 1982 record still stands. No one has come within 30 steals of it since. In the modern era of baseball analytics, teams have largely abandoned the stolen base as a strategy, deeming it too risky. But when Rickey Henderson ran, it was never a risk, it was a certainty. In December of 1984, the Athletics traded Rickey Henderson to the New York Yankees. Oakland needed pitching and could not afford to pay Rickey what he was worth. The Yankees sent 5 players to Oakland and signed Rickey to a 5-year contract worth $8.6 million. In New York, Rickey was reunited with Billy Martin, his former manager in Oakland. Martin understood Rickey, appreciated his talent, and gave him the freedom to run whenever he wanted. The relationship worked. In 1985, Rickey scored 146 runs. It was the most runs scored in a single season since Ted Williams had tallied 150 in 1949. For 36 years, no one had crossed the plate that many times. Rickey ended the drought. He also hit 24 home runs, demonstrating that his power was not a fluke. The following year, he scored 130 runs and hit 28 home runs. He was doing things that leadoff hitters were not supposed to do, combining power and speed in a way that had never been seen before. But the Yankees were not winning championships. The relationship between Rickey and ownership grew strained. Lou Piniella, who replaced Martin as manager, questioned Rickey's commitment. There were whispers that Rickey cared more about his statistics than winning. On June 21, 1989, the Yankees traded Rickey back to Oakland. He was going home. The Athletics of the late 1980s were a juggernaut. Jose Canseco and Mark McGwire provided the power. Dennis Eckersley closed games with ruthless efficiency. Dave Stewart won 20 games year after year. And now they had Rickey Henderson at the top of the lineup. After the trade, Rickey stole 52 bases and scored 72 runs in half a season. He drew 126 walks for the year, the most in the American League since 1970. The Athletics won the pennant and faced the Toronto Blue Jays in the American League Championship Series. What Rickey Henderson did to the Blue Jays in that series remains one of the greatest individual postseason performances in baseball history. He hit .400, he scored 8 runs, he stole 8 bases, breaking Lou Brock's postseason series record of 7. He hit 2 home runs. He drew 7 walks. His slugging percentage was 1,000. He was named the series MVP, and it was not close. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, a pitcher would want to avoid more than walking Rickey Henderson to lead off an inning, Bill James once wrote. Against Toronto, Rickey got on base 17 times in 5 games. The Blue Jays had no answer. The Athletics swept the San Francisco Giants in the World Series, winning their first championship since 1974. The series is remembered primarily for the earthquake that struck before Game 3, delaying the action for 10 days. But Rickey was brilliant throughout, hitting .474 with 2 triples, a home run and 3 more stolen bases. In the 11 postseason games that October, Rickey stole 11 bases and scored 16 runs. He was a one-man wrecking crew. Rickey Henderson was a world champion. He was 30 years old, in his prime, and he was just getting started. The 1990 season was the peak of Rickey Henderson's career. Everything came together. He hit .325, the second highest average in the American League, finishing just behind George Brett. He hit 28 home runs, tying his career high. He scored 119 runs, leading the league. He stole 65 bases, leading the league. He posted a .439 on base percentage, leading the league. He drew 97 walks. His OPS was 1,016, meaning he reached base and drove the ball with equal effectiveness. The Athletics won 103 games and cruised to another pennant. They had become the dominant team in baseball, winning 3 consecutive American League championships. And Rickey Henderson was the engine that made them go. In May of that year, Rickey broke Ty Cobb's American League career stolen base record, swiping his 893rd base. He wanted to do it in Oakland, in front of his mother, in front of the fans who had watched him grow from a raw teenager into the greatest leadoff hitter in history. He got his wish. The home crowd erupted when he slid into the bag. In November, Rickey Henderson was named the most valuable player, receiving 14 first-place votes and 317 total points. He edged Cecil Fielder of the Tigers, who had burst onto the national scene that summer with 51 home runs and 132 RBIs. The slugger had put up monster numbers, but the writers recognized that Rickey's all-around brilliance was more valuable. It was the first time a leadoff hitter had won the MVP since Pete Rose in 1973. It validated everything Rickey had been saying about himself for years. Manager Tony La Russa said, "For the period of time that I have been around, I think the most dangerous player is Rickey." The World Series did not go as planned. The Athletics were heavy favorites against the Cincinnati Reds. But they were swept in 4 games, 2 of them decided by a single run. Rickey hit .333 with a home run and 3 stolen bases, but it was not enough. The dynasty that had seemed inevitable fell short. The Reds, led by their nasty boys bullpen, simply would not break. But Rickey was not done making history. He had his eyes on a bigger prize. Lou Brock retired in 1979 with 938 career stolen bases. It was considered one of the untouchable records in baseball, the kind of number that required a quarter-century of excellence to approach. Rickey Henderson had been chasing it since he was a teenager. On May 1, 1991, the Athletics hosted the New York Yankees at the Oakland Coliseum. Rickey came into the game with 938 steals, tied with Brock. His mother, Bobby, was in the stands. Lou Brock himself had been traveling with the team, waiting to witness the moment. In the 4th inning, Rickey singled off Tim Leary. He took his lead off first base, that distinctive crouch, bouncing on his toes, daring the pitcher to throw over. Leary went to the plate. Rickey took off. The throw from catcher Matt Noakes was not in time. Rickey Henderson had stolen base number 939. He was the all-time leader. The game stopped. Brock walked onto the field to embrace the man who had broken his record. The crowd of 46,000 roared, and then Rickey Henderson grabbed the microphone. He said, "It took a long time, huh?" He smiled. "First of all, I would like to thank God for giving me the opportunity. I want to thank the Haas family, the Oakland organization, the city of Oakland, and all you beautiful fans for supporting me." He thanked his mother, he thanked the late Billy Martin, his mentor and friend, and then he said what everyone was thinking, what only Rickey Henderson would have the audacity to say out loud. Lou Brock was the symbol of great base stealing. "But today, I'm the greatest of all time. Thank you." Some people thought it was arrogant. Some thought it was disrespectful to Brock, but Lou Brock himself understood. He had come to pass the torch. Rickey Henderson was simply telling the truth. Rickey Henderson played for 12 more seasons after breaking the stolen base record. He stole another 467 bases, almost exactly half of Lou Brock's entire career total. He played for the Blue Jays and won a second World Series ring in 1993. He played for the Padres and the Angels and the Mets and the Mariners and the Red Sox and the Dodgers. 9 teams in all, over 25 seasons. He bounced from roster to roster, sometimes because of contract disputes, sometimes because managers grew frustrated with his eccentricities, sometimes simply because he was getting older and no one wanted to commit to him long term. But Rickey never stopped producing. In 1993, the Toronto Blue Jays acquired him at the trade deadline to help with their championship push. He was 34 years old, supposedly past his prime. He had hit .327 with 17 home runs in 90 games for Oakland before the trade, then helped Toronto win the World Series. It was his second ring. In 1998, at the age of 39, he returned to Oakland and led the major leagues with 66 stolen bases. He also led the American League with 118 walks. Most players are retired by 39. Rickey was still the best base stealer in baseball, still drawing walks at a historic rate, still finding ways to get on base and wreak havoc. The records kept falling. On April 25, 2001, playing for the San Diego Padres, Rickey drew his 2,063rd walk, breaking Babe Ruth's all-time record. Ruth had set the mark back in 1935, and it had stood for 66 years. Rickey walked more than the greatest power hitter who ever lived. On October 4th of that year, he scored his 2,246th run, passing Ty Cobb for the most runs in baseball history. Cobb had held that record since 1928. Rickey had been chasing it for his entire career, and now it belonged to him. 3 days later, on the final day of the regular season, he collected his 3,000th hit, becoming only the 25th player in history to reach that milestone. He was 42 years old. He had been playing professional baseball for a quarter of a century, and he was still not ready to stop. After the 2001 season, Rickey continued to chase opportunities. He played for the Boston Red Sox in 2002, hitting .273 in 72 games. He signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers in 2003, determined to play until someone told him he could not. Rickey Henderson played his final major league game on September 19, 2003, with the Dodgers against the San Francisco Giants. He was hit by a pitch in his only plate appearance, and he came around to score his 2,295th run. It was a fitting ending. Rickey Henderson had spent his entire career finding ways to score, and he scored one more time in his final game. He was 44 years old. He had stolen 109 bases after turning 40, more than most players steal in their entire careers. He continued playing in independent minor league baseball for 2 more years, suiting up for the Newark Bears in 2004 and 2005. He refused to accept that his career was over. He officially retired in 2007, at the age of 48, nearly 30 years after he first put on an Oakland Athletics uniform. The stories about Rickey Henderson are legendary, some true and some apocryphal, all of them reflecting the singular personality of a man who saw the world differently than everyone else. There is the story about the signing bonus check, supposedly so large that Rickey framed it on his wall instead of cashing it, until the team called and told him he had to deposit it first. There is the story about Rickey leaving an ice pack on his foot for too long and missing a game with frostbite in August. There is the story about Rickey not recognizing John Olerud as a former teammate, though that one has been confirmed as false. What is true is that Rickey Henderson referred to himself in the third person more often than any athlete in history. People are always saying, "Rickey says Rickey," he explained, but it has been blown way out of proportion. He said people might catch him when he was ticked off, saying, "Rickey, what the heck are you doing, Rickey?" But he never did it that much. He did it enough that it became part of his legend. Rickey was Rickey. There was no separating the man from the persona. When he played for the New York Mets in 1999 and 2000, he wore number 24. It was the number that had belonged to Willie Mays when Mays finished his career with the Mets in 1973. The number had not been officially retired, but it had not been issued to anyone since Mays left, out of respect for the greatest player of his generation. Rickey asked for it anyway. Mays gave his blessing, saying he was fine with a player of Rickey's accomplishments wearing his number. It was a tribute, Rickey explained. He had worn 24 in Oakland in honor of Mays. What is also true is that Rickey Henderson loved baseball more than almost anyone who ever played it. He would say, "If my uniform does not get dirty, I have not done anything in the baseball game." He played with a joy and an intensity that never faded, even as his body aged and his skills diminished. He wanted to play forever. He very nearly did. His teammate Dave Righetti remembered what it was like to have Rickey in the clubhouse during the pressure-filled years in New York. "There was a lot of pressure with George Steinbrenner," Righetti said. "Rickey was the one guy who seemed to loosen that team up. He was confident, but he was also fun. He made the game enjoyable for everyone around him." Rickey Henderson was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2009, his first year of eligibility. He received 511 of 539 votes, 94.8%. Only 28 writers out of more than 500 failed to vote for him. The Oakland Athletics retired his number 24 that same year, ensuring that no one would ever wear it again. At his induction ceremony in Cooperstown, Rickey thanked his mother, his wife Pamela, and his 3 daughters Angela, Alexis, and Adriana. He thanked the teammates and managers who had helped him along the way. He talked about Billy Martin, who had believed in him when others doubted, who had given him the freedom to run and the confidence to believe in himself. He talked about the city of Oakland, which had given him a home and a purpose. And he reflected on what he had accomplished. He said he had broken a lot of records, but the one thing he wanted to do was play the game hard every day and respect the game of baseball. He also remembered his mother's advice. Bobby Henderson had convinced her son to choose baseball over football and had been there for every milestone, every stolen base record, every most valuable player award. From the podium, he said, "I guess Mum does know best," and he thanked his mother. The respect was mutual. His former teammate Dave Winfield called him one of the best players that I ever played with, and obviously the best leadoff hitter in baseball. Billy Beane, the Athletics general manager who had watched Rickey as a young scout and later brought him back to Oakland multiple times, said he was the greatest leadoff hitter of all time, and he was not sure there was a close second. George Steinbrenner, who had both employed and frustrated Rickey in New York, who had traded him away and watched him become even greater, said there was only one Rickey Henderson in baseball. He was the greatest leadoff hitter of all time. Mitchell Page, who played with Rickey in Oakland during the early years, put it simply, "It was not until he saw Rickey that he understood what baseball was about." He said Rickey Henderson is a run man. That's it. When you see Rickey Henderson, no matter when, the score is already 1-0. If he is with you, that's great. If he is not, you won't like it. On December 20th, 2024, Rickey Henderson died at the University of California, San Francisco Medical Center. He had been battling pneumonia. He was 65 years old, 5 days short of his 66th birthday. His wife Pamela released a statement saying Rickey was a legend on and off the field, a devoted son, dad, friend, grandfather, brother, uncle, and a truly humble soul. The tributes poured in from across the baseball world. Players who had watched him as children, who had tried to imitate his crouch and his slides and his swagger, spoke of what he had meant to them. Coaches who had managed him, sometimes in frustration, acknowledged his brilliance. Fans who had watched him steal bases and score runs and declare himself the greatest remembered a player who had made the game more exciting, more dramatic, more fun. Tributes came from everywhere. Reggie Jackson, another Oakland legend, called Rickey one of the top 10 to 12 players of all time. It was high praise from a man who knew greatness when he saw it. A celebration of life was held at the Oakland Arena in February. His mother Bobby was there, the woman who had convinced her son to play baseball instead of football, who had been in the stands when he broke Lou Brock's record, who had watched him become the greatest of all time. His wife Pamela was there, along with his 3 daughters Angela, Alexis, and Adriana. Barry Bonds attended. Ken Griffey Jr., Gary Payton, the Basketball Hall of Famer who grew up in Oakland idolizing Rickey, was there too. Fred Atkins, a childhood friend, told a story about playing football in Rickey's driveway. Rickey went out for a pass, caught it on the run, and slammed into a parked car so hard that he left a dent in the side. Everyone thought he would need to go to the hospital. Instead, they went inside, ate some of Bobby's sweet potato pie, and then went back outside to keep playing. That was Rickey. Nothing could stop him. Gary Payton said that coming from Oakland and becoming a Basketball Hall of Famer, he was inspired by Rickey. It came from watching Rickey do the things he did and be successful. Remember, people from Oakland are great. Rickey is Oakland. On his Hall of Fame plaque, the words are carved for eternity. He was faster than a speeding bullet, scored more runs, and stole more bases than any player in history. combining power, plate discipline, flair, and an uncanny ability to electrify crowds. Electrify is the right word. The numbers are all there. 297 home runs, 3,055 hits, 1,406 stolen bases, 2,295 runs, 10 All-Star selections, 1 Most Valuable Player award, 2 World Series championships. But the numbers do not capture what it was like to watch Rickey Henderson play baseball. The way he crouched in the batter's box, coiled and ready. The way he took his lead off first base, bouncing, taunting, daring the pitcher to throw over. The way he exploded towards second base, head first, sliding in a cloud of dust. The way he rounded the bases after a leadoff home run, slow and deliberate, savoring every step. He was arrogant, and he was confident, and he was absolutely correct about his place in the game. He was the greatest leadoff hitter who ever lived. He was the greatest base stealer who ever lived. He told the world on a May afternoon in 1991 that he was the greatest of all time. Rickey Henderson grew up in Oakland, the son of a nurse who convinced him to play baseball instead of football. He played 25 seasons in the major leagues, longer than almost anyone in history. He broke records that will never be broken. He entertained millions with his talent, his personality, and his absolute refusal to be anyone other than himself. And when he was done, when the final stolen base had been recorded and the final run had been scored, he had changed the game forever. Every leadoff hitter who comes after him is measured against his standard. Every base stealer who tries to run is chasing his ghost. They will never catch him. No one ever could. Like and subscribe for more baseball documentaries. Until next time.